Okay, I think we are live.
Okay.
Just a second. Sorry. Great. Hi everyone, I think we are live. If you can hear me or and you can see me perfectly well, give a thumbs up. Let me just try to. Yeah, great. I think we are live.
Okay.
So, good evening, everybody. We have with us today Professor Deepa Dixit, and this is in continuation of our GDPA preparation session. On Monday we had a session with Saili Kale, a faculty member, and then yesterday we had a session with students of SGM SOM, and today we have got in Professor Deepa Dixit from Welingkar School, and to give a perspective of what a faculty or a business school looks for in a student candidate. Okay. So, Professor Deepa Dixit, she is a senior associate dean at Welingkar. She has worked in product and brand management prior to joining Welingkar. She also had a PhD on impact of social media on consumer behavior. She teaches effective communication and digital marketing on campus. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am, and it's a pleasure
Thank
having
you,
you on
Shrikant.
board. Okay, ma'am. So let us start this discussion. Maybe we can start with some questions, a very broad
Sure.
question, in fact. So what does a B school look in a candidate? Like you have your faculty perspective when you're evaluating candidate. So what does a B school or the interviewer look for in a candidate?
So, different B schools look for different things actually, because it really depends on what they are wanting to focus on. But if I were to look at some common parameters, I can tell you that they're looking at somebody who has got learnability, who's willing to learn. Okay, so whether you're a person with a lot of work experience or you're a fresher, your openness to learning and also your commitment to it. Number two is, do you have an idea as to why you want to do a management program? Whether it's to start your own business or to end up working with a large organization or to work with an NGO, whatever it might be. And you know, your plans may change in the future, but do you have some sort of idea as to where do you want to end up after these 2 years? Number three, we are looking at people who are a little bit articulate. Can they communicate what their thoughts are? When I'm saying articulate and can you communicate, I'm not looking at grandiousness in language, but we are certainly looking at clarity of thought and the ability to put it across effectively. And then I would say a bit of critical analytical thinking is something that we are looking for. Are you able to decipher the situation in front of you and pick out the important aspects? Does your mind work in that kind of can you see some patterns, or can you identify what's going on? And lastly, and most also nevertheless important, is can you work with other people? Can you collaborate? Because today's environment is all about collaboration. Nobody can function independently, etc. There's a lot of collaboration that is required. So as a person, are you willing and do you have the traits to collaborate with others? So I would say these 4 or 5 things. Every B school, I'm sure, would be looking for this in a candidate.
Okay, great, ma'am. I think just for a recap, you have mentioned learnability and clarity about why the candidate is doing MBA, and is he
Correct.
able to, is he or she able to articulate his thoughts or anything, and does he have any analytical thinking, and can he or she collaborate with others, right?
Correct. Because an MBA program gives you, a lot of opportunities to connect with people and also improves your perspective in multiple ways. So if you have a collaborative mindset, then that's the kind of quantum growth that's possible for you.
Great, man. So you have mentioned learnability, right? So how can a candidate showcase if he has learnability or not in let's say 10 minutes of an interview?
Right. So, a lot of times people ask questions like, do you read? what are your hobbies, or if you're reading something currently, what is the last book that you've read? One, what was the last skill that you picked up? Anything that you've learned in the last few, months, years, apart from your graduation? What is it that you have really done? So a person who exhibits learnability will be able to spot a few things apart from what is the mandatory, and should have been able to do something in that space. Okay. The Let us say somebody has worked, has got work experience after graduation. Then if I pose a question which says, what is it that you picked up from your workplace? Apart from just describing the actual job, there are usually insights and learnings from having worked in a particular organization. Can you tell us about that? And so then I would know that you're able to learn things beyond just the task. So there are multiple such ways. So if you're a person with experience, this is what you can do. If you're a person, if you're a fresher, if you have participated in something, or if you have undertaken a project, you have even started an initiative of your own, or even if you've gone ahead and picked up a few courses to improve your capabilities, your own skills, then I would say that yes, this is somebody who's willing to learn and is putting in the effort to learn.
So great, man. So I think most of the candidates have questions about their profile, right? So what exactly is a candidate's profile, and how important is a profile for a WeSchool applicant, and how can what are the things that a candidate can do to improve their profile, let's say in this 1 month or so?
So a profile is not something that you can overnight change over a month. You can certainly add a couple of things, but I don't see a profile changing overnight. Also, a profile is really what you have been doing all these 22, 23, whatever your age is when you're applying, if you have experience in slightly more. So you certainly have academic qualifications. So what have you done in your academics, and how has it, built you as a person? How has it helped you think, and what have you done with that thinking? So let's say, if you have done your engineering, or if you have done your BA in history, or BA in economics or science, whatever it might be, what is it that you have really learned from that is something that I would encourage the students to kind of merge in the application questions. So in every, in any B school, they would want to, they'd ask you, tell us something about yourself, or in an interview, or they would ask you, why do you want to do an MBA, or something about your background. So use these threads. A profile is not just one or two things. A lot of students nowadays believe that a profile is, going and gathering a lot of certificates from Google and Udemy and all these different platforms that are available. That's not what it is. That's just part of it. That is to help you improve your skills. Okay. So profile is about skills. It is about the knowledge that you have gathered and your ability to apply that when you're given a situation. And 3 is about your attitude. So it's all 3. And this is not, okay, if anything can change in a month, then change your mindset and change your attitude. Don't look at it as a, one interview game, because you're going to spend 2 years doing whatever you're going to do. So my suggestion is, when you're looking at your profile, look at what are the things that you have gained in your graduation, apart from your education, which is your skills and knowledge. If you have work experience, what is it that you have really benefited from? What skills have you developed which can be useful for businesses? What skills are transferable? So if there are some technology skills that you have gathered, are they transferable? If there are some social sciences skills, if you're a psychology, like today I was on LinkedIn and I saw some author saying, I have written a book in Marathi on psychology of workplace, blue collar people at the workplace, factory level workers, and she wanted to convert that into English. So that, now if you are a BA in psychology or you're an HR person, that's an assignment that you can take. So it is a transferable skill. So any job that you've had, identify, or any place that you've worked, identify a few things that are transferable skills or transferable aptitude or knowledge, and look at things which you may have to leave behind. So if you are working for a bank and tomorrow you don't want to work for a bank, or you're working with an IT company and after 3 years you're saying, boss, I don't want to work for an IT company or code anymore, fine, not an issue. But then if you expect the next organization to kind of back you up on the coding experience that you have, that's not going to happen. So if you want to shed something, the other person will also shed something away. So a profile is about what you're going to carry, which will hold value over the next couple of at least 2-3 years. So look at your profile from that perspective. So if you've done a certificate course in Google or whatever, Google Analytics or anything that you may have added, how is it going to help you? That is something you need to prepare outside of your application and be able to speak it when you're facing the interview. That's what profile is. It's not just about just adding a few things and making your application look busy.
Okay. So let's say for a candidate starting his or her interview at this point of time, right? So what are the questions that he or she should be knowing right away, or what questions that they can expect during an interview?
Yeah. So different people may begin an interview differently. See, an interviewer usually interviews anywhere between 12 to 20 candidates, maybe 20 is a bit much, but at least 12 to 15 candidates a day. So it could begin differently for everybody. The starting point is your application. So every B school, like I said, asks you to write a few responses. Some call it SOP. Somebody is going to say, why do you want to, may ask you direct questions. Some applications will ask you why you want to apply to this particular program. Like at Welingkar, we have some, apart from the regular PGDM with marketing, finance, operations, and HR, we also have other specialized programs in analytics and media and rural and healthcare and business design. So they're going to want to know, the application will ask you why you're applying to this. So usually the application is a starting point. Or, the applicant, if they have some stellar experience, it could even begin with that, saying, look, you've worked in this organization for so many years. Why do you think you want to do an MBA program at this stage? So what you make stand out in your application is the starting point that usually people are going to begin with. So it could be your experience. It could also be, why you're applying to a particular program. And it could also be as simple as, tell me something about yourself. And that's possibly the best question you can get to begin with, because the pitch is then yours and you can decide how you're going to play on it.
Okay, great.
But I think what the student should know, Shrikant, is a lot of times people find it difficult to answer this, tell me something about yourself. I would recommend that you actually write down, because, about yourself, there are a whole lot of things that you can say. So you have to pre-decide, what is it that you're going to focus on? What is too much information not required? And stick to your script as far as possible. Okay. You can, of course, play by the ear and see what they're interested in knowing more. But at the same time, you have to decide that this is not something that I'm going to, go gaga about. This is what I'm going to focus on, because this is what I want them to talk about. The interview is really guiding the other person to tell them what they should be asking about you. So this tell me something about yourself is a tricky question also, because it's too much. So you better write it down and then just edit it. Say it multiple times to yourself. Talk about it to some friend of yours or your parent, whoever, guide, whoever it is. So that you get used to what you're going to say. And it doesn't seem like, you're sitting on the chair and thinking, should I say this? Should I begin with work experience? Should I begin with family background? Should I begin with, that's not the seat where you sit and think. You should be clear that this is what I'm going to begin with.
Great, man. So you have talked about practicing, right? Practicing before the interview. So will the candidate not appear rehearsed during the interview, right?
Did you ever feel that Sachin Tendulkar looks like he has rehearsed before he comes onto the pitch? Or any of your favorite actors, are, they appear to have rehearsed, but they have all rehearsed, they have all practiced. Even the best of political leaders, business leaders, they go through their script, they internalize it. Practicing is not about parroting. It's not about remembering the words. It's about remembering the key things that you're wanting to say, capturing the tone and the mood of it, and saying, this is what I am and this is what I'm going to go and express. So when you say it multiple times, you actually internalize it. So when you internalize it, it does not seem like, you're parroting it. So there's a difference between that.
So let's say take three scenarios. One is a fresher candidate, and another candidate with 2 years work ex, and another candidate with 4 years of work experience. Right? How will a typical interview be for each of these candidates?
Okay, for a person with 4 years of experience, questions are going to be more focused on what has he or she learned from the workplace and why do they feel it is necessary to pursue an MBA after 4 years of experience. So they may get asked as to why are you not looking for an executive program, or why don't you go for distance learning, or now that you have so much of online, why don't you look at that option? And why do you want to do a 2-year full-time program after working for 4 years? So they have to be clear on that. Especially if you have worked in the industry for 4 years, you should know why you are now willing to take that sabbatical for 2 years. Somebody who has about 2 years of work experience, this question will come, but I think they would have a fair answer, because usually these are people who are graduates and who've had a first level job, so executive or senior executive kind of a thing, and they're wanting to grow in a particular direction, and they also need a ladder to go to the next level. They're building their skills. But they will also get questions on, how have they used their graduation or their knowledge that they have gained at their workplace. It could be asked, you have probably, if let's say you're an engineer and you decided to get into advertising for some reason. Nobody asks Harsha Bogle that question after those many years, but I'm sure he must have also been asked at some stage. So, why do you want to suddenly, shift gear? Are you an undecided person? So it's more about the why, whether you're for 2 years or 4 years, as to why are you shifting gears. For a fresher, they may ask, now that you have gained so much of experience, education, don't you think you should practice this a little bit before actually, then going into management education? Why are you immediately jumping into business and management education? So essentially, that why is very important, and the why cannot be a scripted answer which can be copy pasted by everybody. So I usually tell students, write down your honest answer as to why are you really doing this. Even if it sounds really ugly, just write it down. If you're doing it because, look, you want to now work for, you see this MBA program as giving you opportunities with large companies, doesn't matter, write it down. If you see that as, the ladder to the next big package that you want to make, doesn't matter, write it down. Write down what you really, why are you really doing it? You don't have to go and say, maybe exactly verbatim say that, but you should know that answer. And now you make sense. Or you say, look, I mean, you can't go there and probably say, because I want to earn the biggest package. I mean, if you have the guts and glory, please go and say that. But you can't be sure how it's going to be accepted. So what you really need to then do is figure out that if that is the reason why you're doing an MBA, why do you think that MBA is the route to get there? If you want to work for a large multinational, or if you, and it's not about landing that first job. So I think some of the students can use that path where it's not about landing that big job after you finish your MBA, but about creating opportunities for yourself by the connections, by the future, doors that get opened due to management education, and the need that industry is now showing. So you actually will then go around and say, look, if I want to do my PhDM in finance or marketing or analytics, go back and see that, okay, if this is what I want to do, what is the scope for all of this? And you're seeing there is scope and there is an interest that you have, and the management program is a bridge between the two. So you present it in that manner. And while you're doing that, of course, you make good money or you have a good life. Nothing wrong in that.
Okay. So while we are at the why MBA question, right? So can a candidate say that I want to start my own business after doing an MBA?
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, whether you start your business or whether you go and work for somebody else's business, it's really about how you're expressing your skills. Okay. So they might turn around and say, okay, if you want to start your business, there are so many people who do not have an MBA and have started their business. So why do you think an MBA is required to start a business? So do you have a response for that? So you then may need to know what things does an MBA teach you, which will be helpful if you want to start a business. It will teach you how to manage resources, how to identify where your money is going to come from. It's going to help you identify where your flows, how are you going to really make money. It's going to put you in touch with a lot of people who will possibly be great resource persons for your business, or could end up becoming investing people who invest in your business. So it puts you in the right ecosystem. So entrepreneurship, people who want to pursue entrepreneurship or start their own business after doing an MBA institute, it's not just a course. It's kind of an ecosystem that gives you a whole lot of things, which is going to sustain you even after those 2 years.
So we have one more component in the WAT peer, right? So how should a candidate prepare for WAT?
The VAT is a place where a lot of people ka vaat lagta hai, we say, because because a lot of people have not been used and expressing less and less in writing, and more in audio and words and shortened words. Full expressions don't happen. So one good way of a quick preparation, since you said 1 month time hai, I would suggest that pick up magazines because they're easy reads. At least pick up a Business Today, or pick up an Outlook, or pick up a India Today, and start reading short articles. That way, you'll at least learn how to put out a flow, all right? And you don't have to take positions unless you are asked to, or you are very clear that you want to take a position on a given topic. Don't be fearful in expressing your thoughts, and don't think that the person who is reading it is afraid to read or read things which are different. So express your mind. You don't have to become a super rebel in that when you are expressing your thoughts on a given topic. What they're again looking at is, can you write in a language that communicates efficiently? Because a lot of people are not writing, and written communication is becoming a trait that people are learning at postgraduate level sometimes. And second thing is, critical analytical thinking is again judged over here. If you're given a small caselet, or if you're given a short topic, what are the key things that you want to say? Because you don't have infinite time for everything. So can you, abridge it and put it in a nutshell? So that's why I said a good way to learn that is just read business magazines, because that will kind of help you set a logical flow to things.
Okay. So I think we have a follow-up question on that. So Devashish, he's saying, what does one do when they get a topic for WAT GD that one does not know anything about? It might be an abstract topic or any current affairs topic that the candidate might not be knowledgeable. So,
okay. So, Shrikant, do you know some topics? One you said is abstract. Any other topics? Do students want to just put up the kind of WAT topics that others have got? That will give me a better, my response quality will be better with that.
so I think let's say
One is
one
abstract. I know
abstract
how
is
to
like
deal with it.
men are from Mars and women are from Venus, or any abstract
What's
topic.
abstract about that, aren't they?
Right.
Okay, so yeah, so abstract could also be something like blue or a pocket full of grass.
Correct.
Okay, anything. So it is an interpretation. Abstract topics are not about what is right and wrong. In fact, that whole VAT is nothing about right and wrong at all. It is simply about how you're willing to express and your flow of thoughts. So there is nothing right or nothing wrong. Like earlier, we used to have a lot of group discussions, and a lot of students would ask me this: can I take a particular stance and then change my stance? So it's a discussion. A discussion is supposed to be that way. So similarly, in the VAT, if you have an abstract topic, how do you relate to it? So when I say blue, somebody could talk about ocean. Somebody could talk about, uh, blue collared jobs. Somebody could talk about, uh, lack of oxygen, and that blue is going to now become black or something like that. It's really about how you visualize that topic. And there's really nothing wrong and right about these abstract things. It's about how you're visualizing. And so they really want to know, can you express? In fact, if it's abstract, it's probably the best, because anything that you say, it's what you think about it. It's like a poem. A poem is a poem. I mean, I can say anything I wish to, because it's my expression. If it's a factual topic that they give you, and you're stuck, which is, let us say, after the budget gets announced in February. I don't know whether they normally ask this. So, Shrikant, that's why I said, if they have any topics, then they can tell me. I don't think there is any VAT topic which will say, tell us whether the allocation made to the textile industry or this is the allocation made by the Minister for the Textile Industry, and what implication is it going to have on the Indian textile market. I don't think you'll get topics like that.
So maybe one topic might be if someone is not following cricket, and what do you think about leadership crunch in current Indian cricket team, right? So
okay, so you forget cricket. Cricket is a sport. Okay, and any sport, or they may ask you, what do you think about sports like Pro Kabaddi?
correct.
So a lot of people, I may not be following Pro Kabaddi or any such thing. So you look at what you know. So you certainly know about leadership, and at least you have a view on that. So you can talk about, irrespective of whether it's cricket or anything else, there are certain leadership traits. It's a sport. So just connect it to a sport and say these are important things on sports. And if these qualities start falling, whether it's cricket or any other sport, it's going to end. So I think you can leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we have certain questions about Welingkar. So one candidate is saying, ma'am, my Cmat percentile is around 85 or so. Can I get Welingkar PGDM? Or maybe general question might be, what are the cutoffs for Welingkar for Cmats at or
yeah, so we
CAT?
put out the cutoff already. For CAT, it's 80. We do not have sectional cutoffs for CAT and X80 both. And for CMAT and ATMA, it's going to be 85 for the Mumbai campus. It's 5 percentile lesser for the Bangalore campus as of now, but it's gone higher by 5 from previous year. If you have an 85, can you convert a PGDM, Welingkar, Mumbai, Bangalore, whatever? Yes, of course you can. Because usually at Welingkar, there is anywhere between 50 to 60%, which is beyond the entrance. Okay, so even if you look at the leading IIMs, apart from the selection initial call that you get for the second round or the second stage, that's where your percentile matters. But after that, the weightage given to the percentile is limited. You have your ACADS, you have any other value-added extracurriculars, any wins, any unusual work that you have done, that also has certain weightage. And you have a big section which is related to discussions, case studies, interviews. At Welingkar, we usually have a detailed interview, one which is overall for management, and another wherein we are looking at what you call these specialized programs. So we are looking at the aptitude of that student, or the interest, real genuine interest of that student to get into that program. So even if you have an 85, there is a huge what you call scope for you to beat anybody who's even got a 95. And another thing, and maybe you know this better than me, what is eventually the score of the person who's an 85 percentile student vis-a-vis a student who's a 90 or a 92 percentile? The score gap is not huge.
Correct.
And when you reduce that score gap to a 35% or 50% weightage in the final, that becomes even more tinier, which means you really have a long rope. But then you have to work that little bit extra hard. Of course you have.
Okay.
Because you're not the only one who's working hard.
So we have two different profiles here. One is Vikas. He has done 3 internships and done courses in digital marketing, graphics design, stock market, data analytics. But his 10th, 12th and graduations are 75 to 80%, right? And he also got, I think, less percentage in CAT and ZAT. So he's asking what are my chances for Welingkar. And next one
what is less? I don't know. If it's below cutoff, then no chance.
So there are two profiles. Yes, one who has like extracurrics and all, but less academic profile. And another person is I have only 3 percentages in my resume, 10th, 12th and UG, which I assume are higher percentages, but no extracurrics. How do you evaluate these two profiles?
Okay, so for these extracurriculars at Welingkar, we have 5% weightage, all right? So it's not like a huge weightage. But in your interview, you can, there are a good amount, overall selection, there is a good 45 to 50% students at Welingkar who are freshers. So it's not like you don't stand a chance. But what you certainly have to do is you have to keep your responses in the application really sharp and good, and prepare for cracking your interview. Your expression has to be extremely good. For a person who has all those internships and experience, okay, what you have to be able to, and if somewhere you feel that your acads are not that great, etc., I don't see an 80% and all being low. Okay, everybody can't be a 90 percentiler or a merit holder and be like she can't go to the IIT and IIM and all of that. So there is a huge population which is an 80 percentiler or 80% or 85% in your graduation or in your 12th or 10th, whatever it might be. But you have shown that you have the ability to work in a certain place and bring value to it. So that's where you focus on your application, guys. What you can undo the past. Pick and see what you're good at. So when you're filling out your application, bring out those qualities that you have developed, and surely the interviewer will ask you on those things, and do a good job of it. Score on those areas. Normally, we have about 15% weightage for academics, which is 10th, 12th, and graduation. So if you take away 20%, which is for 5% for extracurriculars and 15% for 10th, 12th, and graduation, you have a big chunk there.
So while we are discussing about application, right? So one major component of the application is SOP.
Right.
So how should a candidate approach SOP and write?
I think we began with that, which is statement of purpose.
Correct.
A lot of times, students, when they begin to write the SOP, hit a kind of a block. You don't know what is the right thing to say. So I would say take a plain sheet of paper and write down things that you hate doing. Okay, that's easier. Write down 5 or 10 things that you don't want to do in your life. Okay, And another thing is, find out a few things at least which you would love to do. So, a lot of times young people, I consider myself young too. Okay. A lot of students come and ask me, I don't want to do this 9 to 5 job. If you talk to somebody in the corporate, they'll say, give me a 9 to 5 job. Does it exist anymore? It does not. Okay, ask an entrepreneur, is there a 9 to 5 job? They say, no. If my customer calls me at 12 o'clock and says, I will give you 5 lakhs of business, and say, I'll come to your house right now. So all these myths which are there, that, I want a job which is not 9 to 5. I want a creative job, something where, I do strategy from day one. I really don't know where those jobs are. I don't know of any. And if you go and ask people, they'll tell you very honestly, it takes time to get there. Okay, so importantly, these kind of things should not be there in your SOP. Okay, I think what you should do is write down what you don't want to do, and if any of these kind of things exist in that, okay, certainly you please cancel it. Do not mention any of this crap in that SOP. Second is, find out why are you applying? What do you want from an MBA college? This is the question I've been asking this season. What do you want from that MBA institute? What do you want from them? Can you ask the students to just put a couple of things if it comes to their mind? And you can be as candid as you want.
Yeah. So we're not getting any replies. I'm just following live chat. There might be some delay.
Okay. So if you're, if you get a response which says, I really want to build a network, I really want to, work with a large organization, I want to work with the Googles and the Amazons or whatever that you have, or I want to set up the next biggest, unicorn, I want to be that person, or I want to start an NGO. What is it that you really want to do? So put that down, then look at that WeSchool and see what they're offering. Okay, and you see that how does it connect to what you want to do? Whatever you see in the near future, it's not about if somebody comes and asks us, what do you want to be 20, where do you see yourself 20 years from now? I can only make a guesstimate. After 20 years, if you come and ask me, but you said this is where you want to be and you're in a very different place, it'll be really funny. So just make a guesstimate. Where is it that you want to be? See what is it that that school is offering, which will help you get there. And bingo, that's your SOP, which is, this is what I want to do. This is what I see myself doing. And I find that your B school here offers these things. And I think that will, equip me with the skill set, with the tools, with the kind of ecosystem that I need to get into that direction. That's precisely why I'm applying to your business school.
Okay. That helped. I think we got some responses. Shubham is saying networking experiences. Harish is saying college should provide a platform to jumpstart my corporate career. Vikas is saying good corporate connection and best alumni network.
Correct.
Great.
You can't really go beyond this, no? I haven't thought of, I really don't know.
So some of the candidate might be return on investment, best placements.
Yeah, correct. So return on investment is a very interesting topic. Return on investment you calculate if you know your lifespan, So return on investment is not only the returns that you get in the immediate, future, which is I get out of college, have I, does my package cover the fees and how quickly is it? That's how people usually calculate it. But hey, was that the only investment that you made? You made an investment of 2 years and you're going to benefit from the returns through that network. Whenever you're in the low, you're going to dip into your B school and say, listen, I need some support. Okay. You're going to call your batchmate and say, listen, I'm starting something new. You think you can find me a couple of investors? You're going to get returns throughout your lifetime. Okay. And as your B school grows in size, in connections, in stature, your brand value also keeps increasing. So who's going to calculate those returns, boss? So don't be myopic and say, I spent 20 lakhs or 10 lakhs or whatever you spend, and say, I should get this kind of a package. So this is like, you could end up, you could get that kind of package and you could retire with that kind of package also if you make those kind of decisions. Make sure that you're investing in an organization called you to stay in the race or stay on that path for a longer time. Imagine you are a company and you are investing in this company called you. So don't invest and don't make decisions which are myopic. Don't go with that designation because you may retire with that designation. Okay? Moving with that designation to some other organization may become very difficult. Okay? You should be wary about these few things.
Okay, great. Let us go back to interview preparation, I think.
Yes.
So one thing is how thorough a candidate should be about his or her graduation subjects.
So if you're a fresher and you're applying for an MBA program, you certainly need to know what you have studied. You've invested 3 or 4 years doing what you have done. So you can't suddenly go there and say, I have amnesia and I have no recollection of whatever I've studied. But I don't think somebody is going to turn around and say, okay, tell me what is this particular law which you would have studied in, if you're a law graduate, tell me a law on this. Possibly they may give you a situation and ask you how you're going to resolve it. And if you're able to apply what you have studied to that, then that's good. So yes, you must know. Does it mean go back and revise everything? No, that's not what I'm recommending. Hopefully, if you have done your graduation decently, you would know the key things that you need to learn. If you have not just parroted and gone and done some crappy graduation, then I think you should at least, your understanding is what is being tested, not your memory.
Okay.
So yeah, it's important. You should know.
So the next question is how can a candidate answer the question what are your long-term and short-term goals?
So in the long term, we are all dead. But so in the short term, I would say next 3 to 5 years. If you take that window, I think what you should look at is the kind of opportunities. If it's about career, so I think you should say, look, if you're asking about my career, if I have to remain relevant in the long term, what are the things that you need to do? Because some of the sectors which we worked in, say, 5 years back or 10 years back, they don't exist anymore. So I think that is a very important aspect that you can mention in your interview. Look at saying that in the short term, you're going to try and work in organizations that give you the what kind of organizations you want to work in. So you could identify those. You could identify the type of roles that you want to work in and say, I want to do this kind of work. You don't have to necessarily name an organization. Or if you want to start your own business also, you can say, this is the kind of organization I hope to set up. And in the long term, I hope to remain relevant because I really don't know whether 20 years hence, and especially today, you can say that after COVID, after this whole thing about AI and ML and digitization that's happening, I think you can safely say that I wish to remain relevant in the years that come. So whatever that I do, I'm hoping to keep learning and upskilling on the way. I think that could be a response that you could use. And in the long run, if you could possibly say that in the first 3-4 years, the focus will be on building my own self and building my own capabilities. In the long run, I hope to be able to build capabilities of other people and possibly contribute back to society. Because if you have done well, only then you can contribute back to society.
Okay. So what all general topics, general awareness should a candidate have?
Okay, since we are going to get into a business school, today some of the important things are about climate change globally, environment, sustainability, ESG is what they call this whole thing. So be aware of what are the terms which are being used commonly in the world of business and what is going to make a difference. So from that perspective, read up a little bit on, and I find reading magazines and reading blogs would be difficult to identify if you don't know who are the writers that you really want to follow. But for the time being, I would say magazines are a good bet because they usually talk about some upcoming trends. Okay, if you're interested in technology and that's a space that you want to use to build your career, what are the recent developments that are happening? What are the kind of organizations that you really look up to? What are the new things that they are doing? At least a little bit about that. So general awareness on the business front, social trends that people are that are becoming very prevalent. So I think a little bit on what are the social trends, because these social trends are going to fuel business. So do some reading about what is happening to the way people are thinking. How are consumers thinking today? How are consumers buying today? How are people investing today? So how is the thinking of people changing? So to that extent, you should read about this. Politics. If you have an interest, yes. I don't know how many. Usually, B schools don't discuss politics at the interview stage. They try and steer clear of it. So complete ignorance should not be there. If there are some new policies which are announced, then you should certainly look up and read about. Usually, after the budget, there's a lot of information. Even WeSchool conducts a session on what are the important things about the budget. Attend some of the sessions. See what are the differences that policy could affect, and be aware about it. You can't, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner all in 10 minutes. So, in the 1 month, if you've not done any of this consistently, start developing that as a habit. Because even as a B school student, you're going to have to read a lot of us.
Okay, great. So, how should a candidate answer the question about his strengths and weaknesses?
Okay. So, strengths usually are things that you can use to make a difference. And sometimes people write strengths like honesty, hardworking. And somebody told me गधे भी होते हैं ऐसे, मतलब even donkeys are hardworking and honest. So how is it going to be? How is your strength going to be translated? So you can pick a strength which could be a personality trait, which can make a difference towards your goal. So let's say if you want to be an entrepreneur, and one of your skills is that or rather one of your strengths then is that you're constantly reading a lot about what are the new changes, what are the changes that are happening in our economy, and how it makes business sense to start something, etc. So you could possibly say that your reading generally about businesses is one of your strengths. If you want to talk about a personality trait, which is, let's say you have a leadership abilities, or you have you're a collaborative person, then there should be something in your profile which talks about that. So if have you led some team, have you been the president of some association, have you undertaken some kind of social work? It could be anything. That quality should somewhere reflect in your other responses, or you should be able to articulate it if asked. Weaknesses are things that undermine, or rather, those are areas which no weakness or no strength is permanent. Okay, so today you might say that I'm very good in technology or whatever, and 5 years later, maybe there's a 5-year-old kid knows more technology than you. So nothing's permanent. So you don't look at weakness as showcasing something which you will get rejected on the basis of. Of course, you're not going to go there and say I'm a complete fraudster. Okay, and anyway, that's not a weakness. That's a personal trait. So weakness is something that you are trying to overcome, and you've not figured a way out so far. Okay, so weakness could be lack of exposure to business work, to the world of work. It could simply be that you're a fresher, but you can say I do not have a lack of experience in the world of work. Could also be that if you're completely no to technology, you may want to say that you're only your knowledge in technology is limitation in how technology is utilized. So you can actually then say, how am I trying to overcome that? It's not about hiding it. It's not about sugarcoating it.
Okay. So I think I have two more questions. So one thing is, what are
Don't
do's
worry, I
and
can walk home, so you can ask me.
sure, definitely, ma'am. So what are do's and don'ts during an interview?
Okay, don't be a fake. Be yourself. There is a lot of scope for a person like you. So this is something a lot of students forget to believe in, which is themselves. And we try to clone somebody. There's no need to clone anybody. Identify what you're damn good at. Okay. So one nice way of doing this is, I think Warren Buffett once recommended this. He said, look at your class and tell me who will you put your money on. Okay. And a lot of students put money on people who otherwise they don't get along with. And one of the reasons that they did that was those people had capabilities that they lacked. Okay, so you find out, if you have to put money on yourself, what qualities of yourself are you going to bet on? If you don't know, have the answer to that, ask a few people. So you'll come to, you'll really come to know what you're really good at, and use that effectively. Do use that effectively in your interview. Find a way of representing that in your application. Don't try to look like somebody else. Just be yourself, because that way you're most confident. When you're faking, you're not sure and the interviewer is not sure. When you're yourself, even if you're not good, you know why you're not good. All right? So don't fake, be authentic. A lot of people put some NGO work and all of that in their application, and it's very shallow. So don't put it if it's not something that you really care about. Okay, whatever you're saying, make sure that you're saying it because you mean it. So don't mince words. Be confident about what you're saying, and you will be confident if you're clear that this is really what you mean. About grooming, so now most of these interviews are happening online. Okay, so people are so nervous. They don't know how to groom themselves, etc. Whatever. So this is an important, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour of your life. You chose to be in that situation. Nobody forced you to get there. So make sure that you are dressed for the occasion properly. You're in a comfortable place, comfortable zone. Get your internet and everything right. Make sure that you're not distracting people, and just be zoomed in to what you have to do. These things are huge distractions at an interview, and you will lose your confidence. It will not affect the interviewer in any way. So make sure that you're taking care of all these nitty-gritties, honestly speaking.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And yes, one last point, make sure that you have taken a look at your own application. I know you're making applications to so many business schools, so you may not know, you may not sometimes remember. So make sure you take that application and revisit your truth.
Sure,
take a look at it, acclimatize yourself with what you have written, so that you're not searching for words during the interview.
Sure.
And for heaven's sake, do not ask others, "Tekho kya pucha? What did they ask you?" Even if they ask you the same questions, your response is going to be different.
So how can a candidate justify any drawback in the profile? Let's say some, for example, drop years, maybe low percentages in low academic profile, or lack of any extra or co-curricular points in his profile?
Don't justify.
Okay.
Don't justify. If they ask you, and but this is a fear that you go with in your head, so you're always worried. If they ask me this, what should I say? Okay, so sometimes it's a good idea to own up. Let's say, when during your college years, after 12th, when you're doing your graduation, there are a whole lot of things that you get exposed to when you get into college. You want debating competitions, you want to play sports, you want to make friends, you want to do so many other things. And so you can simply say that, as in, when I entered college life, suddenly there were a lot of things that I could do, and my priorities suddenly got a little messed up, and that reflected in my grades. But I suddenly woke up and I'm more focused now, and then get the focus immediately onto some of the good things that you may have done. Okay? Get the focus in, just accept it. You can't undo your bad grade, and nobody gets typhoid for 3 years. So, in the sense, don't try to make up some stories which are untrue. So just own it. And if you've really done something, unique, for example, let's say you came from a family where you had to support your own education, and you were also working. And I know students who have done that. They were working full time when they were doing their graduation. So they never really maybe had the time and energy to probably excel at it. Say it, share it. Say, I had to fund my own education. I come from this kind of a background. And so I had limitations to the amount of time that I could put down in my education. And I did put my best, but certainly I'm sure there are a lot of others who have scored better than me. But this is the reason why it's so. And you don't have to ask for sympathy for that. Just say, this is what it is.
Okay.
Don't try to, that's why I said, don't try to justify. Just tell them what it is.
Okay. So some of the gap years, questions about gap years, right? So some have taken gap for CAT preparation, and some have taken
That's
2
okay.
to 3 years
Just tell
gap
them
for
that.
UPSC preparation,
UPSC exams.
UPSC exams. So
Correct.
how do you go about saying so? Especially for, let's say, UPSC, right? So why have you changed
Correct.
track from UPSC to CAT or MBA, right? How do you answer that question?
Right. So the honest answer is, you say, I was preparing myself for, I had two plans. You say, I wanted to get into the UPSC through the UPSC route, or I thought I wanted to, or, the whole idea, the common thread that I see between UPSC and an MBA program is that you want to do something that makes a difference. So you said, my first choice was to go for the UPSC exam. Because I felt that there I had an opportunity to make a larger scale contribution. I did my best, and UPSC requires complete immersion into the kind of effort that is required. It requires complete immersion. It cannot be done on a part-time mode. So I took a break, focused my attention on that, and tried clearing those exams. I didn't clear the exams, but what I have gained is 1, 2, 3 things. So you can talk about, now I know a little bit about this. And considering that I've already completed 2 attempts, I said, now it's time to move on and be practical. And I chose management because these are things which will be useful in the business world as well. And a management degree can help me accomplish that. And it's all, and you can also, I mean, if you have the gumption, you can say, I think one should be dreamy, but one should also be practical and have plan B if required.
Sure. So there are questions about work experience, right? So what is considered as an work experience? Is internship considered as an work experience? And is working for a family business considered as a work experience?
Internship is not work experience. That's why it's called internship. It's usually short term. It's more of a learning experience. There are a few things that you contribute. A work experience is where you are given certain responsibilities, and you're accountable to deliver on that. Okay, so whether you have worked for your family business, whether you have worked for a small company or you have worked for a listed company, as long as that is true, that is considered as work experience. Usually, good business schools will not give too much weightage to only the number of years that you worked. They will give weightage to the quality of work that you have done. And quality of work you have done is not equal to the designation that you have, but actually what did you deliver at your workplace and what have you become because of that? What have you learned from that? And how has your personality really grown because of that? And how are you a better person because of that at workplace as well as an individual? So experience should be genuine. What is it? Suppose they ask you, what is it that you were doing? So you should talk about not your daily chores, but what were you responsible for? So take those two words. What were you responsible for and what are you accountable to deliver? Share those things. And if there is an impact that your work made, share that. And then say, on account of this, this is what I have learned as a person, and this is how I've learned why it's so important to be collaborative, and or why is it so important to gather certain skills, because that improves your pace, learn whatever it might be. So those learnings, couple of them should be ready with you.
Okay, great. So let us take some questions from the students.
Okay.
So Dhruv is asking, does Welingkar focus a lot on profile?
This is like asking, do we care about you? Of course we do. So your profile is about your acads, your work ex, and the way you're articulating. So that whole thing is profile. Profile, what do you mean by profile? Profile is everything. You as a holistic person. The moment if I give you admission only on the basis of entrance exams, then I don't really care about your profile. There are so many factors, no, on the basis of which we are making the selection. So yes, we care about your profile. And profile, some people think is only about academics. That's also not true. There is a certain weightage only given to it. So look at the complete picture, holistic one.
Okay. So there is one question, why MBA after IIT? What if they ask, are you wasting taxpayers' money because IITs are central funded?
Yeah. What's the answer to that, Shrikant? You should help me.
I think IITs provide a foundation, good foundation, and even IIMs are any MBA that you're doing is you're improving your profile, and at the end of the day you're contributing to the country in one way or the other. You'll either be an engineer or a manager or any person. You'll be contributing to a company, or you'll be paying your tax, and you'll be doing some work for the country.
Yeah, so after studying at IIT, if doing an MBA program is wasting the taxpayers' money, if somebody is trying to put you on a guilt trip. So what you certainly have to say is that when we got into the IIT, we were 18-year-olds, impressionable minds. We believed that is one really great path of making a difference. When I got out of IIT, I was a 22-year-old adult, 23-year-old, 22, 23, whatever. And I can see that's not the only path I can use to make a difference. And I feel that apart from technology, there are so many other things that contribute, to how I can make a difference. So I've chosen to gather an MBA, and what the nation gets is an IITian who also has management abilities. So it's double return on investment.
Great. Kritika is asking, what type of questions can be asked from an architect?
Okay, why MBA? Okay. So I don't know what Kritika wants to do, whether after her architecture, does she want to do business design, or does she want to do marketing or HR? What is it that she wants to do? And why does she want to do that? So for a moment, I'll disassociate that. I'll say, whatever your graduation
She
is,
wants
whether you've
to do marketing. She wants to do marketing.
Okay, fine. Then the question is, why do you want to do marketing? So after doing architecture, there are two options. You either work, so it's like doing law. You work with a law firm or you start your own law firm. And today, with big brands entering the space of design, physical design, like today there is a huge IKEA that is there all over India. There are big chains that are emerging. There are what you call an urban ladder which is into that space. So if there can be, let's say your shampoo companies today are recruiting pharma graduates who have done management into the marketing department because they understand the science of they understand the science behind the product and they are able to create powerful messaging. Okay, so similarly, an architecture graduate understands the science of space, so many different things, and can use all of that with marketing to probably work with so many different brands. So you can say, I want to top up on what I already have.
Okay. So Sujan is saying, I have.
Sorry, I just want to say infrastructure is also a very big sector that's emerging.
Correct, ma'am. So I have a workex of 21 months and came out of it in last April to give CAT, but have not got any. Have not got a very good score. How to explain that?
Giving the exam is what is in your hand. Why do you have to explain your score? I don't know what your score is. So give some other exam. I would say that if you couldn't bell the cat, go find a Cmat. Because there are good colleges which are accepting that as well. If it's only the IIMs that you want to go to and your score currently is not going to get a call, help you get a call from there, take it again. There's no other go. But if you're willing to look at other business schools, which also accept scores of XAT, maybe if you've already given the XAT. If you're not, then Cmat can come to your rescue. Then I'll recommend go and give the Cmat and make sure that you put double the effort and do a good job of it.
Okay. So this is about specialization in MBA, right?
Yeah.
So if a candidate is applying for any for general PGDM or MBA course, is it okay to mention that he wants to do a specialization in, let's say, marketing, finance, or any other operations or any other specialization?
It is okay if they are absolutely clear that's the path they want to take and they have strengths that will help them in the interview. So if they have worked in the bank or if they have worked in the finance sector, for example, and they want to further do an MBA with specialization in finance, then whatever they have done will be an added advantage in the interview for them. And so they can actually say, I want to do an MBA in finance and that's why I've chosen this path and this is what I see myself doing. If you're a complete, fresher with no such exposure, you don't need to be very hard and fast about it because most B schools will allow you the first 6 to 8 months for you to figure out where you want to be. So you should use that experience. So sometimes at interviews people ask, but still there might be something which you may like more than the others. So you could say that, without getting proper exposure to anything, making a decision will be short-sightedness. Personally, I probably like HR, but I'm not really 100% sure that's where I want to be. So I want to use the time and I want to use my exposure and then come to a decision. You do not have to answer with a straight, yes, I want to do this, I want to do that, if you're not sure.
There is a follow-up question. So how can a candidate answer if he is attending a interview specific for specialization, let's say a rural management course at Welingkar or business agricultural business management in Ahmedabad. So there are specialized course HR management from XLR, right? So how does a candidate showcase his interest in that particular course and not a general MBA during that interview?
So when you're applying to one of these courses, you should know what these courses offer. As in, most of these courses will put up what are the kind of job profiles or what are the kind of businesses that you can do after attending that course. And if that is what you see yourself doing, and like at Welingkar, I can tell you, you are allowed to mark a couple of options programs. So usually we can see there is a family of programs that people choose from. So let's say if a student has chosen rural management, they may have also chosen a general management program. And within rural, what is it, or agri management, what is it that you want to do? So if you know, my suggestion is go and check the website of that institute and see what is it that the students who have done that course are now doing. What does the course offer? And does that sit well with you, or are you completely outside? If it's something that this is something that you can't imagine yourself doing, don't apply for it. But if you've applied for it, then you could actually end up saying these are things that I would like to see, I see myself doing, and hence I have applied to this course. And go back into your profile and see some qualities. Profile means your experience or activities that you have undertaken or your education, and say that some of these things have also built my skills in this area. So I think I can use this particular program to go to the next level over there.
Okay, great. I think we have covered the questions. Let me just go through the student questions, right? So one question is, do colleges prefer candidates with less work experience, or is there any ideal work experience that B schools look in candidates?
Normally about 3 years is okay for a 2-year full-time program. Okay. 3.5 years. 5 years becomes a little too much, because at 5 years, usually a person is at a certain level, and then you hopefully have already got exposure to certain things. So unless you clearly exhibit your willingness to unlearn and your willingness to, if you're wanting to make a shift in the sector. So we had some student, I remember, who had worked in the banking sector and wanted to leave that. And he was very clear that he wants to get into the technology space. So you should be willing to probably take a little bit of a step back when you enter that sector if you have completely no knowledge for it. And that should be exhibited in the.
Okay. Great, man. I think that covers most of the questions from the students and from my side. So, do you have any closing remarks for our students?
The closing remark would be that take a deep look at every application. Don't make a shallow approach. About 80% of the questions are going to be similar. So do a good effort the first time. Think of those questions like the ones which we discussed today, and come out with a good solid response as to how you want to express yourself. That will pay off in all the applications. Your application is your first introduction. It's like your visiting card. It's like somebody seeing your photograph or knowing, going to your LinkedIn profile, etc. So don't waste that opportunity. So take that, that's your starting point, and the rest we have discussed in the last 1 hour. So I hope that will help you.
Correct. So thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. I think at such a late night also. Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure having you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Srikanth, and all the best to all the students, and keep doing some good work, Cracku.
Sure, thank you.